Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Keila here, and today I have a different type of video for you guys. This is a story time about the time that I lost my mom in jail and finding out that I was pregnant with twins. So before I get into the video, please thumbs up this video, subscribe, click the bell so every time I upload you guys will know. So yeah, let's get right into the video. So yeah, me losing my mom and finding out that I'm pregnant with twins, all while I was in jail. So this was in 2015. Yeah, 2015. So we're going to rewind back a little bit when my mom found out that she was sick. It was like 2007, 2008, sometime like that, sometime around that time. 2007, 2008, around that time, she found out that she was sick and she had sarcoidosis of the lungs. That's a lung disease. Now, Bernie Mac also had this disease, which he unfortunately died from it, but he had pneumonia with his. So, yeah. But yeah, so she found out that she was sick, and you know, it was hard on everybody to find out that she was sick because we didn't know what this sickness would do to her, or you know, how it would make her feel, or what it would do to her, like, you know, physically. So yeah, so we don't know what's going on with, or we don't know how this sickness is going to affect her or whatever. We just know that she's sick. So yeah, the doctor told her as long as she take her meds and, you know, do her follow-ups and go to her doctor's appointments and stuff, you know, she would be good. You know, so, you know, so we're all thinking she's going to be good as long as she take her meds and go to her doctor's appointments and, you know, whatever surgery she needs, she's going to get. All that type of stuff. So fast forward to 2015, January 2015, when she had her heart surgery, because at this point her sickness had done progressed and it was starting to, you know, mess with her heart and all that. So 2015, January 2015, she goes in for her open heart surgery. So she has her open heart surgery and it was successful. So she's in the hospital for, you know, a couple weeks or whatever. And the funny thing about, like, when she was in the hospital, she used to call me and my sister and tell us to come get her because she was ready to go home. She was saying that the doctor was telling her that she was ready to go home. Y'all, excuse me. So me and my sister, we get there to the hospital because she done called us, of course. And was like, yeah, the doctor said I'm ready to go home and da-da-da-da and all this. And so we get there and, you know, we was like, we looking, you know, like she don't have none of her bags packed. She's not dressed. She's still in the hospital gown and all that type of stuff. So I was like, Mom, why you not ready? And she was like, oh, I'm just waiting for the doctor to come here and get my discharge papers. So the doctor comes in, or the nurse comes in rather. And she's like, well, Miss Johnson, you know, we're gonna keep you here for a couple more days to such and such, such and such, such and such. We was like, Mama, you said that you was ready to go home. She was like, well, hell, I am ready to go home. She was like, they not ready for me to go home, but I'm ready to go home. So, you know, we laughing about it because it's like she called us up there because she's ready, but her body's not physically ready for her to come home or whatever. So, you know, it was all good or whatever. And so of course we had to leave her up there, which we didn't want to do because we know she wanted to come home. It's so uncomfortable in the hospital, you know. You don't get to eat the food that you want to eat. You can't wear your clothes and all that type of stuff. So, you know, we felt for her, you know, being in the hospital and she had to stay when she really wanted to come home. We wanted her to come home, but, you know, she wasn't ready physically. Or, yeah. So, yeah, so, you know, we had to leave her there because we had to get back to the stuff that we was doing, taking care of stuff. You know, I had kids, so I had to get back to, you know, taking care of the kids because the kids would not sit still up there in the hospital, being up there for hours and hours and hours, and there's nothing for them to play with in the room or whatever. So, you know, it's just like they're playing with whatever, and you know, you can't have that. So, you know, we had to leave or whatever because of the kids and all that type of stuff. My sister had to go back to work and all of that. So, yeah. So she had her open heart surgery in January 2015. She got out the hospital like, I want to say 3 weeks. 3 weeks I think after she had her surgery and she was able to come home. And so at this time, she, I believe, was staying with my aunt. Yeah, I think she was living with my aunt. And so she's living there. And then February comes and she started having complications with breathing and stuff, and her chest hurt and all that type of stuff. So she goes back to the doctor and they, do x-rays on her and all that type of stuff. And she had blood clots around her heart. So they had to do surgery on that to remove the blood clots and all that. So that was successful. And, she was good. She was good doing everything that she needed to do, go to her doctor's appointments, taking her meds, all that type of stuff. So March 1st, I was supposed to be going to go meet up with her, or, to go and check on her. And I had my son in the car with me. And I was supposed to go to my house because at this time I was staying with my boyfriend and we was living in Lancaster. And she lived in the Dallas area of Texas. So she lived in Dallas. We lived in Lancaster. So it's a great distance between, it's like a 15-20 minute drive. 15-20 minute drive from my house to her, or to my aunt's house. So yeah. So while I'm in the car with my son and a friend, by the way. So we're driving down the street or whatever. We're driving down the road, and the light, I see the red and blue lights. I'm like, oh Lord, I'm thinking, that they trying to go around me or something like that, because I had literally just pulled out of the apartments. So out of my friend's apartment. So I'm like, okay, I just pulled out. I didn't do nothing wrong. I'm not speeding. I just literally just pulled out. So I couldn't understand why I was being pulled over. I was thinking that they were trying to go around me. So yeah, we go through the light or whatever, and they pull me over. They asked me for my driver's license and insurance and all that type of stuff. And they asked my friend for his stuff too. So we give them I give them my ID and stuff. I didn't have a driver's license, by the way. But yeah, I gave them my information and all that type of stuff. So they go back to their car and they check the stuff out. They come back and they gave my friend back his ID and stuff. And they was like, sir, you're good. And then the officer opened my door. I was like, what the hell? So he opens my door and he's like, ma'am, can you please step out the car? I'm like, what did I do? And he was like, well, you have a warrant out for your arrest. I was like, for what? He was like, for blase, such and such, whatever. That's another story for another time. But yeah, he was like, you have a warrant out for your arrest, and I'm going to need you to turn around, put your hands behind your back. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to jail. I'm going to jail. What the hell? And my son is in the car, and it was like, y'all really going to arrest me in front of my son? Like, really? So I'm crying at this point, and they take me back to their car or whatever. They put me in the car, and my son, he's seeing me. He saw me get arrested, but he's not really looking at me because he doesn't want to like look at me. But he sees what's going on. So I'm crying, and I asked the officer. I was like, well, can I kiss my son goodbye? Can I tell him bye or whatever? He was like, well, do you really think that that's a good idea, that you're crying? You want to see him crying? I was like, the fuck, you already arrested me in front of him. Like, what more is it going to do to him if I'm crying? You arrested me in front of him. You handcuffed me in front of him. So I need, let me tell my son that, everything is going to be okay. Mommy's okay. I'll be back. So he let my son come or whatever. And I kiss my son and I tell him, Mommy's going to be okay. And I need to go figure out what's going wrong so I can come back to you, So after that, they let my friend take my car to my mom, who was at my aunt's house, and they, he had to take my son too. Yeah. So after that, I get to the jail. I call my mom, and she's like, well, what happened and all of that, because my friend told her obviously that I was in jail. So she was like, what happened? And I was like, he said that I had a warrant for my arrest for such and such, such and such. And she was like, well, I was like, well, is Christian there? Is he okay? Is he good? She was like, he all right. He just over here telling the story and, running his mouth like he always does. I was like, I'm sure he is. So after that, you know, I'm waiting in the booking, you know, I go upstairs, you know, dress out, all that type of stuff, my photo and all that jazz. So, so a couple days go by and they, you know, it's mandatory that all females get a pregnancy test when you go to jail or whatever. So they do my pregnancy test and the doctor comes back and they was like, your test was positive. I was like, what? What do you mean? Like, what does that mean? It was like, I was not trying to hear that, y'all. I was not trying to hear those words that you're pregnant. No, not in jail. Yeah, so they're like, yeah, your test was positive. We're gonna have you come back in a couple of days to do a follow up and see how far along you are. Da, 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 all of that. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So, you know, I get back to my cell or whatever, and I'm trying to call my mom or whatever. I'm trying to call, but I can't get through. So it's like a couple days going by and I'm frustrated because I can't call my mom. I can't tell her what's going on, you know, that I'm pregnant. They just told me that I'm pregnant. I think they lying on me. All this type of stuff. So a couple days go by. I go back to the doctor and they do a sonogram. They do a sonogram on me. And so they do that and they do the heart monitor thing to hear the baby's heartbeat. So, yeah, they did that. And when the doctor was doing the sonogram, he was just having this look on his face. And I'm like, okay, you acting like you never seen a baby before. You know, and never act like you seen a pregnant woman, you know, the inside of a pregnant woman before. So he's looking, and then so I'm like, okay, why is he looking like this? And then he tells his nurse assistant, Cheryl, whatever her name was, we just gonna call her Cheryl. He was like, come look at this. So she looks and she's like, and then so when she did that, I'm like, what's going on? What is in there? What do y'all see? She was like, there's two. I said, two what? She said, there's two babies. I was like, no. I was like, no. She was like, what, you're not happy? I was like, no. Don't understand. I had kids already. And to be exact, I had three. I had 3 kids already. So you're telling me that I'm about to have 2 more? No, I'm not happy at all. And then on top of that, I'm in jail. To add injury to insult, I'm in jail. Finding out that I'm pregnant with twins. Y'all, it was horrible. Oh my God. So, you know, they tell me, you know, they show me my twins, they show me the babies and all that type of stuff. And it was like, they're pretty healthy. From what I could see at this point, they're pretty healthy and, you know, all that. So I'm like, okay, well, I mean, the damage is done. I'm pregnant and it's twins and I'm just glad that they're healthy. So I go back to my cell, take whatever, and I call my mom. And at this time, I got a hold of her. And it's just like, really, just now you want to answer the phone when I'm about to tell you this disturbing news or whatever. And so, yeah, she answers the phone or whatever. And, you know, I tell her, I'm like, Mom, I got something to tell you. She was like, what? She was like, if you finna tell me you're pregnant, I already know. I was like, how? How did you know? She talking about, girl, you know, you can't never hide nothing from me. I always know when you're pregnant. I was like, well, yeah. So she's telling everybody in the background because it's like she's at my aunt's house and they're like, you know, people always go and visit my aunt or over there to visit my mom, you know, to see how she's doing and stuff. So, you know, there's people over there and I can hear them in the background and she's telling them that I'm pregnant and stuff. I'm like, oh my God. I was like, well, Mama, that's not the whole thing. She was like, what else is it? I said, it's twins. She said, what? Where the hell they come from? Yeah, that was so funny. She was like, where the hell they come from? I was like, Mama, I don't know. They just told me this today. I was like, I saw them and everything. She talking about, oh Lord have mercy. But y'all, she wasn't mad. She wasn't mad at all. It was just like, I mean, it was a surprise to everybody, you know, that it was twins. So, you know, after that, you know, I told her, you know, well, I'm going to go back to the doctor next week and, you know, they're going to I have to go to a follow-up appointment and they're going to tell me if they're fraternal or identical, stuff like that. So she was like, okay, just let me know everything that's going on. And I was like, okay, I'll let you know and all that. So that was on the 13th of March. On the 17th of March, it was my court date. So I go to court, and my lawyer was he was in there talking to the judge, and then he had me filling out all these papers and stuff, some papers that I had to fill out. I don't even remember what they were. But he was like, I have some good news and I had some bad news. And I was like, okay, what's the bad news first? And he was like, well, I'm going to tell you the good news first. I was like, okay. He was like, well, the good news is that I can get you probation. I was like, okay, I don't see really how there's good news, but, if it'll get me out of here, then okay, whatever. So he telling me, I can get you probation, but the bad news is that the DA wants you to do 60 days. I was like, wait, what? 60 days? No, wait, no. So he was like, yeah, well, I was like, sir, I can't do 60 days. My mom is very ill. She has my son. He has ADHD. She can't take care of him. I need to go home. Is there anything else that you can do? Y'all, he was such an asshole. He was like, well, that's what the DA wants. There's nothing else that I can do. And so that's what it is. That's where we're at right now. Either you do the 60 days or you could take it to trial, but the judge could rule against you and you could do 2 years. Or he could decide to let you go home today, but I don't know. It's up to the judge. Like, he was being completely nonchalant about the shit. Like, he was not trying to, show me no sympathy at all. And it's like, I just found out that I'm pregnant with twins. My mom is sick, and she has my son. She can't care for him. It's like, really, there's like nothing that you can do. So basically, like, after I kept trying to ask him, and he basically, like, he walks off from me. So I'm like, oh, y'all, I wanted to cuss that man out so bad, but I couldn't. So I was like, Lord God, Lord, please, there's got to be something. So after he walks off or whatever, and he was like, well, you could, after telling me that I could go take it to trial and the judge could let me go home that day, or I would sit in there for 2 years, I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, I could go home today, but then I could possibly do 2 years, or I could just guarantee do these 60 days. So I was like, oh my God, okay, I'm going to just do the 60 days or whatever. I sign my papers to do the 60 days, and I go back or whatever. So I get back. I call my mom and I tell her, well, Mom, they said that they're not going to let me out of here until I do 60 days. That's what the DA wants. He wants me to do 60 days and I can go home or whatever. So she was like, okay, well, we're going to still see what we can do because, I can't really care for Christian and, all that. She was like, well, I'm going to try to see what I could do about, putting money on your books and all that type of stuff. And I was like, okay. So I'm crying at this point because I really don't want to be in here for 60 days. It's like, it's 60 days. Like, no, I'm not trying to hear that. Then on top of that, I'm pregnant and I'm in jail. I'm 9 times out of 10, I'm going to stress while I'm in here. I'm depressed and all that stuff. Don't want to eat what these folks are giving me because I don't want to feed that to my unborn babies. And then on top of that, my mom is sick. So it's like, after that, that was the 17th of March. So, I just went into like a little stress mode. I ain't gonna say depression. Well, it was kind of depression, but it was just me stressing like on what else is there that I can do to try to get out of here. Like, can I write my lawyer or write somebody else or write the DA or anybody that, I was just thinking what I could do. So like a day later after I go to court, they moved me out of the regular tank where I was because I was pregnant and I couldn't be around the regular inmates. I had to go into a pregnancy tank where there's nothing but pregnant females in there. And so yeah, I go in there and oh my God, y'all, there's all those pregnant women with hormones and one emotion. And we're in jail on top of that, y'all. It was crazy in there because it's like, It was too much shit going on. It's like all these pregnant bitches in here. Everybody's emotional. Everybody's hormonal. It was just like all this. It was like really like some shit that you'll see in a movie. Like, but yeah. So I dealt with it. Whatever. So I had called, like, once I moved, I had went in there, called my mom, and was telling her that they moved me, because I was pregnant because of the babies and all that type of stuff. So, that was a good conversation that we had that day. The next day was the 19th. Yeah, the next day was the 19th. And I call her and she's going off on me for God knows what reason. I don't know why, y'all, she was going off on me, but she was going off on me and was like cussing at me and all type of stuff. And I couldn't understand. I was like, okay, what did I do? Like, I couldn't get a word in. I could not get a word in. And before I could even try to get a word in, she hung the phone up on me. So I'm like, my feelings are hurt at this point. Because my mom called yelling at me. She's sick. I was calling to check on her to see how she was doing. I'm already emotional and I'm hormonal. I'm pregnant and she's yelling at me. And I'm like, why is she yelling at me? And I just told her I was pregnant. All that type of shit. So whatever. After she yelled at me, she yelled at me, and a couple more days go by. This is the 22nd of March. 22nd, I called, I was letting her cool off or whatever. So I called my boyfriend at this point. And I was trying to see, if he could call her so I could talk to her and see what was going on while she was yelling at me or whatever. So he was like, babe, there's something that I have to tell you. And I was like, in my head, I'm thinking that he's about to tell me that he's been cheating on me while I was in jail. He was like, because the first thing he was like, after he said, babe, there's something I have to tell you, he was like, my heart is racing. I was like, who the fuck? Who is the bitch? That's all I'm saying in my head is, who is this bitch? Who is the bitch that he fucking with? So he was like, I got something to tell you. And I was like, what is it? And he was like, your mom died. I was like, whose mama died? He said, your mom died. Y'all, before I knew it, I dropped that phone and I didn't even realize that I had fell or dropped or whatever. I did not realize it at all. And all I could hear, it was like my ears were just ringing, like they was ringing like crazy. I couldn't hear nothing else no more. It was like I couldn't see nothing. Nothing. It was like I completely just, like I was in a whole different zone, like I was in the Twilight Zone or something. And all I remember is I remember screaming. I remember that part. I remember me screaming, and I hear people was like, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And I couldn't say nothing. I was trying to say it, but I couldn't say it. So one of the girls that I was in there with, she picked up the phone and she was asking like, what's wrong with her? Why did she just, she's crying like crazy, she's screaming. And, he of course he told her that, her mom died. And so she was like, oh my God, no. And everybody was like, what's wrong? And she was like, her mom is dead. And everybody was like, oh my God, no. Everybody started crying, y'all. When I say everybody in there was crying, everybody was crying. Even the guard was crying, y'all. Was crying. It was like literally a huddle around me. Like we were on a football field. And you know how they huddle up? That's how they were around me. And everybody's just crying and shit. So I'm feeling tears and shit dropping on me. I'm like, ugh. But whatever. I'm not thinking about that at this point. And I really didn't want to be, I wanted to be held and I wanted to be comforted. It was just like, oh, I don't want to be comforted by these people, but I don't care. At this point, I'll take a hug from anybody. So yeah, they're trying to comfort me and all this type of stuff. And the guard was like, well, go get your stuff. And I'm thinking that they're about to let me out, So, I hurry up and go get my stuff or whatever, and they take me to another tank by myself. I'm like, y'all, really? And the tank was a suicide watch tank. I'm like, dude, really? Suicide watch? Y'all didn't ask me if I even felt like committing suicide or hurting myself or anything like that. At that point, I really, I really wasn't thinking about it. I was hurt. Like, y'all was hurt to my core. But I wasn't thinking about doing nothing like that because the fact that, you know, I was pregnant. So I wasn't thinking about doing nothing like that. But what did happen is that I didn't want to eat though. I didn't want to eat. So I guess, you know, that was kind of, they wanted to watch me for that. But even though they put me in a suicide tank because I wasn't eating, you can't make me eat it, or you're not gonna force it in my mouth or anything like that. So it was pointless to put me in there unless you're gonna strap me up and force me to eat something, you know. But yeah, of course they wouldn't do that. They can't do that. So yeah, so they put me in suicide watch or whatever. So, you know, after, you know, a couple hours go by, they let me out, and I try to call my sister to see, you know, how my mom died and all that type of stuff, and to check on her to see if she was good and see, you know, if my boys were good. So I called or whatever, and, you know, my sister's telling me the story about how she died and all of that. And I was like, well, is there anything anybody can do to try to get me out so I could come home? Because I don't want to be here when, you know, it comes time for her funeral or whatever. So she was like, well, and Stephanie and them, they're already taking care of it. They on their way down there right now, blah, 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 blah. Y'all, as soon as I hung that phone up, they was calling me to pack my shit. And when I tell y'all, I was hauling ass. I was hauling ass to get the hell up out of there. I was ready. Everything, all the snacks and stuff that I had bought on commissary, I left all of that. I didn't give a damn about none of that shit. I left all of it. And of course, like, you know, I had to pack up my stuff, had to get my blanket and all that type of shit. But I left everything that was edible. And so, you know, I got released or whatever. And I get released, and this was the same day that I found out that she died. So I get released, I go home, you know, we have her funeral, and I was just, you know, talking to my family and stuff, and I was trying to figure out, like, you know, I want to know why my mom was yelling at me, why she was mad, or, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking that my mom died mad at me. And they was like, don't ever think that she didn't die mad at you. It was just, you know, the sickness. She was being mean to everybody. I didn't know that. She was being mean to everybody. And so, yeah, they was like, don't ever think that she died mad at you, because she didn't die mad at you. It was just the sickness that was taking over, and she wasn't thinking clearly, and, you know, stuff like that. So I was like, okay. Yeah. And they was like, she was just talking about how, you know, I'm pregnant with these twins and all that type of stuff. So yeah, that was that worst experience. And that was the worst year, worst month of my entire life. First get arrested, then find out I was pregnant with twins, then I lose my mom, all in the same month. So that was the most horrific year and month of my entire life. And I pray that no one ever has to go through that, because I seriously don't know how I managed to make it. You know, I literally thought that I would have, you know, had a breakdown or, you know, something like that. But my mom always told me, she used to always tell me and my sister that she wasn't going to always be here. But I wasn't expecting to lose her that early. So, but yeah, the moral of this story is to, you know, never take the loved ones that, you know, never take the people who you love for granted. The ones that are closest to you, tell them as much as you can, as many times a day as you can, how much you love them, how much they mean to you, how much you want to be there for them, how much you want them to be there for you, all that type of stuff. And, you know, because you never know when you may lose them. You don't know when the next time you'll talk to them again. You don't know if, you know, y'all get into it. And don't hold on to grudges, because you don't know, like, the next time you'll be able to tell them that, you know, you're sorry, or you didn't mean it, or you love them, you know, anything like that. So just don't hold on to grudges. Don't hold on to the past, and let it go. Just talk it over with them and just move past it. Don't dwell on it. It's because it doesn't do anybody any good if they're gone, and you be wishing to yourself like, damn, I wish I could have just told him that it wasn't his fault, or it wasn't her fault, or I didn't mean it this way, or I didn't mean to say it like that, or, you know, I've loved you, you know, I've always loved you, I've never stopped loving you, anything like that. You never want to miss that chance to say that to somebody that you really care about or that's really close to you. So just try to cherish every moment that you have with your loved one, your kids, your grandparents, your parents, your siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, anybody. Just, you know, don't miss that chance, or just tell them as much as you can how much you love them. So yeah, that's the end of my story time. And if you guys like this video and you want more story times, thumbs up this video. Let me know in the comments what kind of story times you want, or you know, if you want to hear another story time. So yeah, you guys, let me know in the comments if you want more story time, and don't forget to subscribe and click that bell so every time I upload, you guys will know. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.